Hi, this is Andrew Thorpe from Mojo Your Business, and welcome to a recording of a webinar I conducted the other day entitled The 6 Ways to Build a Brand on a Budget. Now, this is basically aimed at startups, at micro businesses and small SMEs, people with limited marketing budgets who need to find other ways of developing a profile in their particular niche. And we have a particular belief, a very strong belief at Mojo, that if you're armed with a strong story, we call your message your story, then you have every chance of standing out from your competition and attracting clients to you. So here we go. One of my very favorite gurus, marketing gurus, Seth Godin, author of The Purple Cow and many other wonderful books, highlights or defines brand as the set of expectations, memories, stories and relationships that, taken together, account for a consumer's decision to choose one product or service over another. Now, I think there are some really interesting words in this because most people's perception of a brand is a logo. They think of it as some design issue. But he defines it in a way that I really agree with, and that is that if you are considering where to go for your cup of coffee, you want to go out for a coffee somewhere. Do you go to Costa? Do you go to Nero? Do you go to Eat? You have all manner of different choices. But if you go to Nero, let's say, and you have a really good experience and you have a series of good experiences, you begin to expect that that's the experience that you're going to get. So the brand around Nero for you is set really by the expectations and the experiences that you've had of that particular brand. So that's why he uses this word expectations. It's an expectation of what you're going to get. And if that's consistently good, it creates memories, because obviously when you go to those stores, you generate memories in your own mind. You share those experiences with other people in the form of stories, and you start to build a relationship with that particular brand. It almost feels part of your normal routine, and you feel at home there. There really is a relationship that's built up. So what he's saying essentially is that if, as a provider of a product or a service, you can create those memories and those stories and those expectations, it means that you start to develop a different kind of relationship with the people that you're serving. You know, they see you differently to the other competition. And that means that they're much more likely to want to choose you as opposed to anybody else. And ideally, of course, you want to be essentially seen as being in a category of one. There's only one particular person or company like you, and that's how you attract clients to you. So essentially, it's kind of a magnetic process. It's drawing the right people to you who are right for your product or service, and they'll stick to you like glue, providing, of course, you continue to provide them with that high level of service. Now, the work that we do at Mojo Your Business, and originally, incidentally, we called our company Mojo Life. That is still the holding company, but our brand is known now as Mojo Your Business. What we tend to do is we help companies communicate better on the outside, that's their external marketing message, but also on the inside. There are some terrific stories being told within organizations that are really the gold that exists within those companies. And we have a methodology of helping companies tap into that fantastic resource and utilize it. But we're going to focus today really on the external marketing message. You know, how can you tell a story about your company which allows you to stand out and attract the right clients for you? Now, you may ask, well, why is this so important now? Well, I'm going to describe why I think that's the case. We live in a very different world now, a world where everybody has a megaphone through which to broadcast. And that's because of the internet and particularly social media, which has removed the barriers for people to launch advertising campaigns and to say things about their product or service that they want to say. Now that's a wonderfully democratizing force. It's great that we all have access to these platforms now, but it does create an awful lot of noise. That's the problem, because there are no barriers to entry. Anybody can put anything out there, and they do. So if you're communicating your product or your service through a traditional kind of factual overview of what it is that you do, it's very likely that you're not the only people that do what you do. So you'll struggle to get heard amongst all that noise, because what you're saying sounds very similar to what other people are saying. And of course, because we're faced with this wall of noise now as consumers, our defense mechanism, I suppose, against that is to close our ears, is to ignore stuff, and it's becoming increasingly difficult to get people's attention because of that. So in many respects, traditional marketing has become broken. It's not enough now just to tell more people what you do, because that simply creates or adds to the noise and fails to, grab people's attention. And I'll give you a brief personal recollection of this. This happened to me about 5 years ago. I was networking with a couple of friends who ran their own businesses, and we made the mistake of attending 3 networking events in a single day. Now, don't do it, it's too many. But we were keen, we wanted to get out there, we wanted to drive our business forward, and we just attended too many in a day. We were bored by the third one of the whole rigmarole of, telling people what you do and listening to what they do and so forth. So we decided, for a giggle, to pretend to be what we were not. We took on a made-up job, and one of the ladies I was with decided that she was going to be a funeral director. The other was a dolphin trainer, and I chose the job of a paranormal investigator, a ghost hunter. Now, we kept this pretense up for about 20 minutes. We couldn't keep it going any longer. We dissolved into laughter and went to the bar. But I actually encountered a guy during that 20 minutes who came up to me and said, "What do you do?" And I said, "Well, I'm a paranormal investigator." And he looked at me he hardly looked at me at all, and he said, quite blandly, he said, "Oh, right, where are you based?" And I thought, is that the most interesting question you can ask me when I've just told you that I work as a ghost hunter and I'm in a business environment? And I kind of realised afterwards that he probably didn't even hear me. And it wasn't because I didn't speak loudly enough. I think it was because he just wasn't tuned in to listening to what people were saying. And of course, I think it underlines the point that because there's so many of these bland factual descriptions of what people do being bandied around, people become quite desensitized to it. They actually don't think they listen anymore. So that's why I think it's extremely important these days that you have something to say about your business that is a little bit different. That's what you might term remarkable, and remarkable in the sense of, having something that's worth talking about. So what I think the message that I want to get across today is that let's suppose you definitely have a good product or service. Let's take that as read, that you have something good to offer. What I think now we must do is we have to tell a really compelling story about that product or service, and we should have a good story to tell about it, because at the end of the day it's creating great outcomes for people. You're good at what you do, so do yourself justice. And I think that this story that you put out there, I describe this as the seed that you plant in the business community that, if nurtured, will grow into something quite substantial. And by nurturing, I'm talking about obviously continuing to do great work, but then you doing something to help that seed grow. And that might be things like capturing success stories of the clients that you're serving, and getting those stories to spread by, for example, building up a network of people who like what you're doing and are happy to spread your story for you. So there are things that you can do to help that story to spread. Now, I'm going to suggest that there are 6 ways 6 ways in which we can do this, in which we can build our brand very much around this story that we're telling. And the 6 ways I'm going to describe are all low cost. They don't really cost very much at all to do, but they do require a high degree of skill. There's no doubt about that. And they're also quite time consuming in the sense that these are not quick fixes. You've got to be in for the long term with these things. You've got to show that you have the persistence and you're willing to put the effort in to make these things work for you. So here goes 6 ways to build your brand on a budget.